Saints Row: Get Out of Hell was released on January 20th of 2015 and was developed by Volition and High Voltage Software and published by Deep Silver. The game is a standalone expansion for Saints Row 4, however it's included with the re-release of Saints Row 4 on the Xbox One and PlayStation 4 in the Saints Row 4 Re-Elected Edition. Get Out of Hell is a third-person shooter in the same style as Saints Row 3 and 4. The game takes place at some point after the fourth game at a birthday party for Kinsey Kensington. At the party, while using a Ouija board that was once owned by Aleister Crowley, they accidentally open a portal to Hell, where Satan grabs the boss and drags him to Hell with him with the intention of making the boss marry his daughter. Kinsey and Johnny Gat proceed to go to Hell and rescue the boss. Unfortunately, this Saints Row game completely lacks the ability to customize your character, which was one of the cooler features of the third and fourth games. Rather than creating your own character that would have been the boss, you play as either Kinsey or Johnny throughout the entire game. You are able, however, to import your save states from Saints Row 4 and replace the default boss model with the one that you used. However, this has no effect on the game other than the cutscenes. Aside from the intro cutscene and a few scenes throughout the game, there really isn't much in terms of story or plot to speak of, because of how the story missions are designed. Rather than having main story quests, the game has a bar that you fill by doing side quests. The idea is if you cause enough chaos by doing side missions in Hell, you'll get Satan's attention. Once the bar fills to a certain length, it'll trigger plot cutscenes, which really has no bearing on the gameplay until the end. There are a few deceptive story missions where you help some of the citizens of Hell like William Shakespeare or Vlad the Impaler, but they're really only short missions that lead to a string of side missions that character wants you to do. They really lack in any plot depth and are more to unlock new abilities. Many of the abilities from Saints Row 4 return in one form or another but are slightly modified for the setting. Right from the start, the game gives you the ability to run faster than cars, jump super high, and fly. The flying mechanic replaces the gliding mechanic of Saints Row 4, and although the flying does take a bit of time to get used to, it feels extremely good once you have it down, and it quickly becomes one of the best parts of the game. The Blast and Stomp abilities make a return from Saints Row 4, however the elemental weapons and telekinetic powers are replaced by damaging auras and the ability to summon minions. These abilities are a fun way to spice up combat when you're being overwhelmed, but with most Saints Row games, the difficulty is negligible, and these abilities don't really ever have to be used to complete the game. The missions in Get Out of Hell mostly feel like rehashes of missions seen before. There's a few staple missions from the series that reappear, for instance fraud or rampages or racing missions, however there are a few new mission types. Most of the missions are slightly modified for the new abilities in the game. For instance, rather than racing by running on the ground or in a car, you do it by using your flying ability. While the portrayal of Hell as a city makes sense given the context of the game, I wish the game would have included more imagery from Dante's Inferno, specifically the center of Hell being icy. The city does feel way more original than the city in Saints Row 4, as the city in Saints Row 4 was mainly a reproduction of the city in Saints Row 3. Graphically, the game looks good. It's basically the same graphic level as seen in the previous two Saints Row games. The city at times does feel lifeless, which sorta makes sense because it's Hell after all. The diversity in the cars you'll see is lacking, and for the most part the people walking around are just zombie-like husks with no defining features. The environments, however, are fairly diverse and each of the districts feel unique compared to each of the others. In terms of audio, this game was a huge disappointment. Get Out of Hell completely lacks the awesome licensed soundtrack that the previous two games had. It sort of makes sense that there wouldn't be any radio stations in Hell, but it really draws away from the character that the previous two games had because of their soundtracks. This lack of character in Get Out of Hell is a problem, because the Saints Row series has become defined by the character that the games have, and unfortunately this game for the most part lacks it. Between the lack of true story missions and the lack of the game's character, it really puts Get Out of Hell at a subpar level compared to Saints Row 4 and Saints Row 3. Overall, Get Out of Hell falls a little flat compared to the previous two games. The gameplay is fun like any of the other Saints Row games, although the side quests can feel repetitive after a few hours. The movement and control of the game feel really solid and shine as some of the game's best features. Since this is only an expansion, it comes with a price tag of $20, which is fair for the 5 hours you'll get out of completing the game. The game is worth playing if you feel like doing more Saints Row style missions, but don't expect much out of the plot or character that the series is known for.